After I'd pushed my wife to the pinnacle of success, making her a bona fide tycoon, I didn't get the fairy tale wedding we talked about. Instead, I got the news that she was pregnant with her old flame's child. Does it really matter whose kid it is? Chloe had said, a dismissive wave of her hand. It'll have your last name. It'll carry on the Miller family line, won't it? That's enough. Her betrayal didn't make me angry, not anymore. I'm an agent for the system. The only reason I hadn't left was because any wishes I'd made, any realities I'd shaped for her, would be revoked the moment I departed. I stayed for her. When my mission progress hit 30%, I wished for her company, Anderson Solutions, to go public for money to pour in. At 70%, I wished for her mother, who was fading fast, to have a long and healthy life. When a mission was complete, I wished away the brain tumor that was killing Chloe, restoring her to perfect health. She thought my lack of resistance meant I'd finally learned my place. She promised to put me in charge of a subsidiary, even offered to have a baby with me, another one eventually, but she didn't know my contract was ending. I was leaving. It was early evening when Chloe, that's my wife, Chloe Anderson, finally came home. She tossed her designer bag onto the marble entryway table and called out, "Ethan, honey, come give me a shoulder rub." Being pregnant is exhausting. Any other time, I would have rushed over, ready to cater to her every whim. But not this time. I didn't say a word. After all, the baby wasn't mine. Ever since Liam Walker, her college sweetheart, had returned to the States a year ago, she hadn't let me touch her. And just recently, I'd found out she was 3 months pregnant. She'd admitted, bold as brass, that it was Liam's. She actually expected me to be understanding, to welcome this. She used to at least try to hide her meetings with Liam. Now, she brought him into our home, right in front of me. I watched him follow Chloe in, his arm already possessively around her waist. I said nothing, did nothing. My uncharacteristic silence made Chloe's face tighten. Just as she was about to snap, Liam stepped in, all smooth charm, and started massaging her shoulders. "He's probably tired from work, Chloe. I got this." He even shot me a smug, knowing smile. I looked away, pretending not to see. Liam shrugged, unbothered. Chloe, however, flushed with anger. "Tired from what? All he does is shuffle papers all day." Her voice rose. "Since the IPO, I've been working myself to the bone. What has he contributed? If he hadn't gotten lucky marrying me, he'd never have seen the inside of a house like this in his life. Living a high life off me, and not a shred of gratitude. Just petty and thin-skinned." Listening to her tear me down, I finally looked up, my gaze cold. She was pregnant with another man's child. The fact I hadn't already walked out, or worse, was me being more than generous. And she expected me to bow and scrape, especially when her entire empire was built on my sacrifices. As an agent of the system, completing my assignment with Chloe was supposed to grant me 3 powerful fulfillments. If I'd taken those rewards back to my original reality, I'd have had endless wealth, a life of ease. But when I hit 30% progress and got my first fulfillment, I saw her, usually so cool and aloof, cry like a lost child. "Anderson Solutions is the only thing my dad left me," she'd sobbed. "And I'm failing." That day, my resolve softened. The system warned me repeatedly. If I left, any fulfillments I activated in this world would vanish. Still, I used that first one to make her company a success, to ensure her path was smooth. Now, she was the powerful businesswoman everyone envied. And even though she knew exactly who I was, what I'd done, what I'd given up, she still treated me like a stain on her perfect life, something to be despised. The love I'd poured everything into had become a cruel joke. When they settled on the sofa, too close for comfort, I got up and moved to a chair across the room. Liam was whispering in Chloe's ear, making her laugh, that light, airy sound that used to be for me. Her whole body shook with amusement. Before Liam had even kneaded her shoulders for a full minute, she grabbed his hand, her voice dripping with concern. "Liam, you must be tired too after your day. Let me give you a back rub." He immediately settled back, lapping up the attention from the CEO. Not even a minute, and she was worried about him. I cooked elaborate meals for her every single day, varying the menu to keep her interested. I'd even brought warm foot baths to her and her mother, waited on them hand and foot. Not once did I get a thank you, not even a pleasant look, just constant criticism, complaints that I wasn't good enough, that I should take classes to be a professional caregiver. I used to think she just didn't know how to show affection. Turns out, she just never considered me human enough to deserve it. I closed my book and stood up to go to my room. Chloe glanced at me, a sneer tugging at her lips. "It's 6 o'clock. Aren't you going to make dinner? We're starving." My voice was flat. "I ordered takeout through an app. Help yourselves." It was the first time I'd ever contradicted her in front of someone else. Her eyes blazed. Getting bold, are we? Bad enough, I have to support a grown man. Now you won't even do chores. The air crackled. Liam, ever the peacemaker when it suited him, quickly intervened, touching Chloe's arm. He's just feeling a little hurt, Chloe. Go easy on him. He then added, with false sincerity, actually, this is all my fault. A misunderstanding led to this situation. Chloe has such a kind heart. She couldn't bear the thought of, well, that's why she's keeping the baby. Kind heart? Early in our marriage, Chloe had gotten pregnant. Unexpectedly. Before I could even process my excitement, she'd told me she was too busy with work and had taken care of it. I was devastated, but said nothing, truly believing she was a workaholic. But now, at the peak of her career, she was willing to step back to have Liam's child. The truth was, Chloe just figured my wishes were all used up, that I had no more value. She was ready to kick me to the curb. Kindness had nothing to do with it. My cold stare must have unnerved her. For a moment, something flickered in her eyes, a hint of something. Her voice softened, a rare attempt at conciliation. As long as you treat this child well, once the baby turns 1, we'll finally have that big wedding. And you won't have to be my assistant anymore. I have a subsidiary. I'll put you in charge of it. I walked away without a word, my hand behind my back. She still thought I'd slave away for her. She had no idea. I was going home. I didn't want any of this. Let the system take it all back. I had 2 days left before my departure. I didn't go to work. Instead, I took the debit card, linked to the account where my meager allowance went, and went on a spending spree. Might as well, since I couldn't take any of it with me. As I was wandering through a high-end mall, a breaking news report flashed across a giant screen. Chloe's company, Anderson Solutions, was in trouble. One of their new buildings, constructed with substandard materials, had collapsed, killing 6 workers. The news surprised me a little, but then I figured they'd probably been cutting corners on construction for a while. It was only the system's protective influence that had kept things from falling apart sooner. Now that the system was busy processing my departure, it was retracting all the luck it had bestowed. By the time I left tomorrow, Chloe would lose her precious career, and both she and her mother would lose their extended lives. Just as I was thinking this, my phone rang. Chloe, the company's in crisis. Get back here now. I strolled into the next luxury boutique, voice casual. Can't. I'm busy shopping. Chloe sounded incredulous. I was usually such a workaholic, always at her beck and call. She must have thought I was still sulking. Her tone softened, losing its usual sharp edge. Just come to the office for a meeting. We'll sort this out, and then you can take some time off. I was leaving tomorrow. Time off. Yeah, right? I hung up and continued my tour of the mall's most expensive stores, indulging in a novel sensation of reckless spending. When I got back to the house, Chloe's mother, looking every bit the pampered matriarch in her silk robe, was already in full complaint mode. A freeloader husband, doesn't know his place, out gallivanting all day while the company is facing a disaster, just knows how to waste money. I started to take off my shoes, only to find Liam there, casually wearing my slippers. Mrs. Anderson's attitude towards him was night and day compared to how she treated me. She clutched Liam's hand warmly. Liam, you're such a dear, helping Chloe with PR, and so thoughtful to bring her home. Liam smiled. It's mostly handled, Andy. This is my area of expertise. Don't be too hard on Ethan. He's done well for himself, considering he came from a small town. Chloe's mother sniffed. Done well? He got lucky, marrying into my daughter's money. If he'd ended up with someone else, he'd probably be stuck in some tiny apartment, eating instant ramen. The old woman had a convenient memory. After Chloe's father passed away and the creditors came calling, they'd been the ones hiding out in a cheap rental. It was my nonstop delivery gig work that kept them from starving, that put even instant ramen on their table. How quickly she'd forgotten those hard times, now using them to mock me. I ignored her. I was leaving soon anyway. Chloe, to her credit, didn't say anything. She saw Liam out, then followed me into our bedroom. She pulled a crumpled, expensive-looking floral tie from her purse. I had this custom-made by a famous international designer, she said, approaching me. It's one of a kind, unique. It'll look perfect on you. One of a kind, my ass. I'd seen Liam wearing that exact tie, practically preening when he paraded past me in it. I glanced down. Sure enough, a faint lipstick smudge near the knot, and the distinct scent of another man's cologne and sweat. She'd probably just taken it off Liam, stuffed it in her bag, and only decided to gift it to me because of my recent defiance. A sacrifice in her mind. I didn't reach for it. She, however, moved to put it around my neck. Only then did Chloe notice my new clothes, the fresh haircut. A flash of distaste crossed her face. She frowned. The baby's still small. We need to be careful. If we're together. I stared at her, confused. Then it clicked. Chloe detested physical intimacy with me. She'd instituted a rule: 3 times a month, no more. I was always meticulous about my hygiene, always dressed neatly, but she'd constantly complain I was unkempt, a country bumpkin. To please her, on those rare occasions, I, normally frugal, would splurge on grooming at a salon just to win a moment of her approval. But now, I'd simply wanted to spend the savings I'd painstakingly accumulated from my actual job before the system. She'd completely misunderstood. Chloe, suppressing her obvious irritation, had already looped the tie around my neck. I raised a hand, stopping her. "You've got the wrong idea." Chloe froze. In the past, I'd practically begged her to tie my tie, and she'd always refused. Now that she was offering, I was rejecting her. But she didn't get angry. After a moment, she put the tie back in her purse, sighing. "You just want a child of your own, don't you?" she said softly. "After this baby is born, I'll have one with you. I promise." If she'd said those words earlier, I would have given my life for her in gratitude. But now it was too late. I waved my hand dismissively. "No need." Chloe must have thought I was just being stubborn. She suddenly threw herself at me. "All right, stop being difficult. Let's just get this over with. The sooner we finish, the sooner I can shower and sleep. I'm exhausted." I shoved her off me hard. I didn't even think about her being pregnant. Chloe cried out in pain and surprise, scrambling to her feet, furious. "Ethan Miller, if you have a problem, spit it out. Who do you think you're scowling at?" Her voice was shrill. "The baby's gonna have your name. What more do you want? Don't be so ungrateful." Her words almost made me laugh. "Don't bother. The Miller family legacy doesn't need to be tainted by something like this." In all our years together, I'd never spoken to her so harshly. Chloe was stunned. She hadn't expected me to have such a vicious tongue. She absolutely blew a gasket. "The baby is innocent. How dare you insult my child? You're sick." She stormed out, slamming the door. This time, I didn't chase after her to apologize and soothe her temper. Later, when I went to the kitchen for a glass of water, I overheard her talking to her mother in the living room. Mrs. Anderson was comforting her. "Don't you worry, dear. Once the baby's born and calls him daddy, he'll soften right up." Chloe sounded uneasy, her brow clearly still furrowed. "I just checked his accounts. He's normally so tight with money, but he spent almost everything." Her mother snorted, as if she'd expected as much. "See? He obviously heard about the company's troubles and got scared you'd ask him for money. Trying to protect his little stash." She paused, then added with a sneer. Then he realized it was just a small problem, quickly solved, so he came crawling back. Chloe knew better, of course. She knew I loved her far more than money. Otherwise, I wouldn't have used all 3 fulfillments on her. She defended me, her voice firm. "No, that's not it. He stuck by me when I was at my absolute lowest. He gave me every penny he had. He wouldn't be trying to hide money from me now. He's probably just incredibly hurt, letting off steam." Her mother, oblivious to the truth of the system, just scoffed. "Oh, you're too soft on him. What man doesn't hand over his paycheck after getting married?" Chloe put her arm around her mother, her expression softening as she recalled the past. "But Mom, when you had that car accident and I was overwhelmed with the company, he was the one who took care of everything. He nursed you day and night. No one else would have done that." But Mrs. Anderson just looked exasperated. "Silly girl. He was just doing what a kept husband should do. Anyone else in his position would have done even better. Listen to me. You're pregnant with Liam's child. Divorce Ethan as soon as possible. With Liam to help you manage the company, your life will be much easier. Unlike that useless freeloader. All he's good for is laundry and cooking. Absolutely spineless. No ambition at all." Hearing this, Chloe, surprisingly, didn't agree. For the first time, she looked coldly at her beloved mother. "Mom, I am not divorcing him. And don't bring it up again." Of course, Chloe couldn't afford to divorce me. She was terrified that if I left, she'd lose everything. Her mother was about to say more when her eyes caught sight of me in the doorway. She let out a disdainful little laugh. "Now he's taken to eavesdropping. People from his background are always so uncouth." Chloe, embarrassed at being caught, tugged her mother's arm. "Mom, please." "Warren, Mrs. Anderson reined it in slightly, but still looked down her nose at me. "Why haven't you brought me my nightly warm milk yet?" In the past, I'd meticulously catered to their every whim, primarily because Chloe was so cold and proud. To make her love me, I'd been completely subservient, like a servant. Later, when her mother had the car accident and ended up in a vegetative state, Chloe had collapsed in my arms, sobbing uncontrollably. I'd used a fulfillment to wish her mother a long life. Mrs. Anderson had opened her eyes. Her injuries healed with astonishing speed. Even old ailments vanished. I thought she'd be grateful I saved her mother. Thought they'd treat me better. Instead, both she and Chloe looked down on me even more. So why would I fetch her anything now? I wasn't a masochist. I was scrolling TikTok on my phone. Busy, I said, not looking up. Mrs. Anderson was about to erupt. Chloe stopped her, then walked over to me. Actually, we haven't had a proper meal together in ages. I've booked a table at that new French place, a candlelight dinner. Just for you. I didn't respond. Just then, her phone buzzed. It was Liam. Her eyes lit up, but she deliberately affected a cool tone. I have some urgent work. I need to step out. Don't forget our reservation. Without waiting for my reply, she adorned herself with jewelry and practically skipped out the door, clearly anticipating a romantic evening with Liam. The moment she left, Mrs. Anderson settled onto the sofa, arms crossed, and switched on the TV. I'm hungry. Go make me a late-night snack. Let's start with that beef Wellington you make. The dish was incredibly complex, requiring a ton of ingredients and at least 4 hours of cooking time. When I was desperately in love with Chloe, I'd ignored her mother's unreasonable demands, obeyed her every command, even painstakingly learned to cook gourmet dishes. Now, she could starve. I'm too useless to make that, I said, turning back to my room to play some video games. Ask your precious son-in-law-to-be. Mrs. Anderson's face turned crimson with rage. After a moment, her expression shifted to smug satisfaction. Fine. You won't be arrogant for long. Once Chloe and Liam get married, you'll be completely useless. Then, the company can expand nationally, even globally. The gap between you two will only get wider and wider. I was speechless, still trying to matchmake them, oblivious that her own life was on a countdown. I didn't go to the restaurant. Chloe didn't contact me either until 2 in the morning. So sorry, her text read. I wasn't feeling well, had to rest at the hospital for a bit. Let's do lunch tomorrow noon. Whether we met or not was entirely her decision. I certainly hadn't agreed to anything. I was about to put my phone down when a picture message came through. From Liam. Chloe, face flushed, was fast asleep beside Liam. Her lingerie was carelessly piled on a nearby chair. I recognized the room's layout. Chloe had posted selfies from this very room countless times. The earliest one was from 3 years ago, before her first tumor. So, she'd been betraying me even back then. I knew Liam sent it to provoke me. I ignored it and went to sleep. Around noon, Chloe called over a dozen times. I didn't answer, just silenced my phone and rolled over. I was drifting in a hazy state of sleep when my bedroom door was kicked open. Chloe ripped the covers off me, her voice tight with fury. Ethan Miller, why did you stand me up? She was practically shaking. Do you know how long I waited for you at that restaurant? 16 minutes and 9 seconds. Do you have any idea how valuable my time is? I sat up, rubbing my eyes. I stood her up once, and she was ready to tear the roof off. She stood me up countless times. Liam had followed her in. His eyes swept over me, filled with nothing but contempt. Chloe, this husband of yours is a real piece of work. How could he leave a woman waiting like that? You should divorce him. I'm far more reliable, and I can actually help you run the company. At least I'm not some lazy slob lying around the house all day. He finished with a self-satisfied smirk. He clearly expected Chloe to side with him. But Chloe's expression flickered. She remembered when her first brain tumor was diagnosed. Liam hadn't hesitated to abandon her, fleeing overseas and cutting off all contact. It was me who had stayed by her side, cared for her through the nights, me who had ultimately saved her life. Her anger deflated instantly. For the first time, she actually apologized to me. Okay, fine. Let's call it even for me, canceling last night. I won't hold it against you. Since everyone's here today, let's all go out for a meal. Liam looked surprised for a moment, but then waved a magnanimous hand. Sure, why not? This one's on me. Suddenly, a notification pinged in my mind. The system. Respected host, the departure channel is now open. You may return to your original world at any time. I smiled, a genuine smile for the first time in what felt like ages, and climbed out of bed. No need. You three enjoy your meal. I'm going home. Liam blinked, then chuckled. Isn't this your home? He didn't understand. But Chloe did. She knew exactly what going home meant. She stared at me, aghast. Don't be ridiculous, Ethan. You worked so hard to win me over. You used all your mission rewards on me. On us. If you stay here, you'll have more wealth than you can ever spend. I cut her off with a raised hand. A word of advice, I said, my tone deceptively mild. Instead of wasting your breath here, you should probably start thinking about damage control. When I leave, everything the system granted you will be revoked. You're on your own. Chloe scoffed, crossing her arms, her face a mask of condescension. Trying to scare me? Do you think I'm as gullible as I was back then? Unlike then, now she had everything. I, on the other hand, would be nothing without her, or so she thought. Liam didn't quite grasp the full conversation, but still chimed in with a derisive laugh. They say kids from poor families mature early, but you're so childish, Ethan. Chloe, are you sure you want to spend your life with someone this immature? As he spoke, Liam's phone rang. He answered it. His face went white. Chloe, he stammered. All our corporate partners are pulling out. They've canceled all contracts, and the IRS is launching a full audit. There are massive tax discrepancies. In an instant, Anderson Solutions was bankrupt. Chloe was personally liable for billions. Before she could even react, her own phone shrilled. It was the hospital. Is this Ms. Chloe Anderson? Your mother has suddenly lost consciousness. She's in a vegetative state. We need you to come in immediately to sign consent forms for emergency procedures. Chloe was dumbstruck. It finally hit her. I wasn't bluffing. I was really leaving. She lunged forward, grabbing my arm, her voice desperate. Ethan, husband, please don't be impulsive. Whatever the problem is, we can sit down. We can talk it through, can't we? I shook her hand off, a cold smile on my face. No need to panic just yet. The next thing to be reclaimed is your life. The next moment, before Chloe could utter another word, I stepped into the shimmering portal. Chloe watched me, her eyes growing strangely intense. You're really going? I didn't answer, just kept moving toward the portal. She let out a long, heavy sigh. I didn't want it to come to this, Ethan, but you forced my hand. Her voice was low, chilling. Did you think I had no defenses? No contingency plan? This whole situation. I know I wronged you, she continued, her tone shifting, becoming almost pitying. But ask yourself, honestly, you were a nobody. Do you really think someone like you deserve a woman as exceptional as me? Her voice hardened again. Did you think I didn't want to have your child? I just didn't want to sully my family's superior genetic line. From now on, you'll stay here, in this house, and enjoy the comforts I provide. I can give you anything, Ethan. Anything but love. You should be content with that. She pulled out a small, folded piece of parchment, intricately marked with strange symbols. With a flourish, she set it alight. Suddenly, the shimmering portal wavered and collapsed, winking out of existence. Chloe stood opposite me, her eyes filled with a chilling, possessive triumph. Ever since I witnessed the true power of your system, I've lived in constant fear. Fear that one day you'd betray me, abandon me. So I sought out specialists, people with unique talents. A mystic gifted me this binding sigil. Once burned, it ensures you can never leave. Looking at the empty space where my escape route had been, I started to laugh. A harsh, bitter sound. How utterly, pathetically ironic. I'd given up everything for her, gambled my entire existence on her, elevated her to this pedestal. And her response? From the very moment I'd gifted her wealth and life, she'd been plotting, scheming how to control me, to keep me leashed. Only I, like a fool, had continued to serve her, believing, hoping that somewhere, sometime, she might have actually loved me, even for a fleeting moment. I reached out to the system mentally. In response to the situation, a series of cold, impersonal text boxes appeared in my vision. But seeing those words, I felt a profound sense of reassurance. Error. Host has left excessive traces in the target world, significantly altering multiple destinies. Host's own fate matrix has become entangled. Departure channel integrity compromised. Re-establishing connection. So that was it. By pouring my mission rewards into her, I'd ultimately sabotage myself. It was against the rules, creating a loophole, an exploitable vulnerability. Thankfully, the system was powerful enough to fix this. Respected host, vulnerability protocol engaged. Restoration in progress. Estimated time to channel reconstruction, 15 days. Upon full retraction of all granted fulfillments, departure channel will be reestablished. Please confirm intent to proceed. Without hesitation, I mentally hit confirm. Across from me, Chloe was oblivious to this internal exchange. She genuinely believed she had me trapped. You'll stay here quietly. I'll have people watching you, she said, her voice firm. Liam, let's go get Mom from the hospital. Liam, still reeling from the sudden, drastic turn of events, just stood there dazed. Chloe, don't worry too much. Annie is just very ill. I'm sure she'll pull through. Chloe actually laughed, a sound devoid of any sorrow. You misunderstand, Liam. As long as he doesn't leave, my mother and my company will be fine. She should be awake by now. As if on cue, her phone rang. The hospital. Chloe held up the phone, a triumphant glint in her eye. See? The hospital, calling with good news. She answered, and before the person on the other end could speak, she said briskly, Don't worry, I'm on my way. I'll be there to bring her home shortly. After the earlier scare, She'd already concocted a plausible explanation for the doctors regarding a patient's sudden, miraculous recovery. But just as she was basking in her perceived control, the doctor's voice came through, stern, urgent, and laced with anger. Chloe stared at me, her face contorting in panic and disbelief. "You didn't leave. You're still here. Why is this happening to my mother? Tell me." She was rooted to the spot, utterly unraveling. I remained silent. It was Liam who finally managed to pull her towards the hospital, Chloe insisting I come along. The light above the operating room was still on. Chloe, in a daze, signed whatever papers were thrust at her. The surgical team rushed back to work. The longer they waited, the more frantic Chloe became. Finally, she sank to her knees before me, her voice raw with desperation. "Ethan, I swear, I know I was wrong. Please, I'm begging you, save my mother. I lost my father so long ago. She's the only family I have left. If you hate me, make me do anything you want. Just please spare my mother. I'm the one who wronged you. Punish me, okay?" Once, her tears had been my undoing, time and time again. But my compassion had only brought me ruin. I remembered the system's repeated warnings when I first bestowed a fulfillment upon Chloe. Excessively altering another's destiny would inevitably lead to a backlash. I just watched her hysteria, my expression impassive. "I'm just a loser, Chloe. How could I possibly have that kind of power?" She cried harder, on the verge of hurting herself. Onlookers started to stare, thinking she was unhinged. Even Liam couldn't understand what was going on. "Chloe, please, don't get so upset. Think about the baby." Chloe remained on her knees, refusing to get up, looking as if she might start slapping herself if I didn't agree. Just then, the light above the operating room door went out. A surgeon emerged, his face grim. He sighed heavily. "We did everything we could. I'm so sorry for your loss." Chloe's mother was dead, a far more severe outcome than the previous vegetative state. But this, I suppose, was the price for the extra years she'd lived. Chloe lunged at me, screaming incoherently, before finally collapsing into Liam's arms. She lay unconscious in a hospital bed. Liam, the great love she'd yearned for, seemed primarily concerned with the status of the baby, barely glancing at Chloe herself. He let the nurses attend to her, showing more interest in hiring a private nurse than lifting a finger himself. When Chloe slowly opened her eyes, he rushed to her side, all feigned concern. "Chloe, you fainted. You scare me half to death. I've been here with you for 3 hours, waiting for you to wake up." He prattled on, listing all the minor things he'd supposedly done for her. Chloe, deeply moved, reached for his hand. "If you hadn't left all those years ago," she whispered, tears welling, "I would never have married Ethan." Liam was her unforgettable first love, her childhood sweetheart. They'd grown up together, practically engaged from a young age, destined for the altar. But after Chloe's family business imploded and her father, hounded by debt, took his own life, the Andersons had fallen from grace. Former allies turned on them. Even Liam's family broke off the engagement, and Liam himself was whisked overseas overnight, without so much as a goodbye. Buffeted by one blow after another, Chloe had spiraled, with only me by her side. I was the one who'd helped her rebuild, putting her back on the path to success. Once Anderson Solutions was thriving again, the well-wishers and opportunists flocked back. That's when Liam had mysteriously reappeared, claiming his family had forced him to leave back then. By that time, Chloe and I were already together. From their hushed conversations I'd pieced together, Liam had apparently told her he didn't mind being her other man. So, for years, they'd carried on a secret affair behind my back, until she was diagnosed with brain cancer. The man who'd sworn eternal love vanished again. Liam's most recent return was a year ago. His excuse this time? He'd been mugged, knocked unconscious, and somehow ended up involuntarily abroad. Now, clutching her hand, Liam looked suitably ashamed. "It was my fault. I wasn't strong enough. My family pressured me, and I couldn't go against my parents. But I promise, Chloe, I'll never let you down again. Never." Chloe lay in bed, tears streaming down her face as she looked at him. But her eyes held no gondom, only an immeasurable sadness. "I understand, Liam. If you truly hadn't wanted to go, no one could have forced you. Besides," she added, her voice flat, "even if you were gone, you could have contacted me. You never did." She pulled her hand away from his. Looking at his stunned expression, she said, "That's why I'll have your baby, Liam, but I will never marry you." Liam's smile was tough. "Everyone makes mistakes, Chloe. Can't you give me one more chance? I swear I'll make up for everything I put you through." Chloe's face was cold. "We'll see how you behave." I hadn't intended to enter the room, but a doctor, knowing I was Chloe's husband, insisted I come in. The moment Chloe saw me, her eyes filled with resentment. My mother is dead. Are you satisfied now? Her voice was venomous. You're so cold-blooded, Ethan. I've had enough of you. Let's get a divorce. I shrugged, spreading my hands. Fine by me. At this point, it was a choice between divorce and widowhood for her. Really? The doctor, holding a chart, hesitated. Seeing my nod, he spoke directly. Ms. Anderson, I'm afraid the news isn't good. Your brain cancer has returned, and it's in its late stages. The cancer cells are spreading very rapidly. At most, you have about 2 weeks. He paused. With our current facilities, there's very little effective treatment we can offer. In truth, no one could save her. The cancer had reappeared with terrifying speed, already metastasized. Not even a miracle worker could help now. The atmosphere in the room froze. Everyone was stunned. Liam shot to his feet. Doctor, what about the baby? Her baby? The doctor adjusted his glasses, his tone unsympathetic. The mother isn't going to survive. There's no chance for the child. I had expected this. The system, in its process of repairing the loophole, was systematically retracting everything. Years ago, when I completed my mission, I could have left. But then Chloe had suddenly fallen ill. I couldn't bear the thought of her dying so young, and I truly loved her then. So, I'd use my final, most powerful fulfillment on her. Now, her situation was even worse. There wasn't even a sliver of hope for a rescue. Chloe stared blankly for a moment, the anger gone from her face. Tears welled in her eyes as she looked at me. You're really leaving, aren't you? You're going to take it all back. Her voice was a choked whisper, including my life. I didn't speak. The answer was obvious. Liam, however, couldn't accept this sudden, catastrophic shift. His face hardened as he glared at me. Ethan, you don't need to play these kinds of games. You just bribed this doctor, didn't you? Trying to scare us? Do us a favor. If you're going to fake something, at least do your research and make it convincing. A thought seemed to strike Liam, and his expression filled with disdain. Just a little while ago, I took her for a full physical. She was perfectly healthy. Even if she did get brain cancer, it wouldn't suddenly be terminal. And even late stage usually means 3 to 6 months, not 2 weeks. And that company collapse story sounds pretty far-fetched now, too. The issues with that shoddy construction were supposedly resolved ages ago. How does a massive corporation just go bankrupt overnight? He turned to Chloe. Chloe, this is all a setup. He hired these people. Don't believe a word of it. Liam's deductions weren't entirely illogical, but he'd overlooked one crucial factor, the existence of something as reality-bending as the system. I remained silent. The doctor, however, was incensed. Mr. Walker, if you don't believe me, feel free to seek a second opinion at any other hospital. I assure you, the diagnosis will be the same. Of course, Liam didn't believe it. He dragged Chloe to several other major hospitals for tests. Meanwhile, all of Chloe's assets were frozen. Fortunately for me, she'd been wary enough back then to insist on a prenuptial agreement. In all our years of marriage, she'd never given me a dime of her actual wealth. As a result, the small condo I'd managed to buy with my own savings was safe. Chloe, with nowhere else to go, had her things moved into my place. When I got home, Liam and Chloe were in the middle of a blazing argument. I really thought you turned your life around, Liam was yelling. But you're still as useless as ever. The company's gone, the baby's not going to make it. The suddenness of Liam's transformation caught Chloe completely off guard. Disappointment washed over her face. You were the one who ditched me first. Then, when you saw I had money, you came crawling back, saying you'd even be my mistress if I wanted. Now that there's nothing left to gain, you're insulting me? You're pathetic, Liam. Get out. Get out right now. I don't want to see your face ever again. Chloe was rubbing her temples, clearly stressed. A string of bad luck, her mother's recent death. She was at her breaking point. But Liam's skin was incredibly thick. Chloe's angry words didn't faze him. He sat down on my sofa as if he owned the place. You want me to leave? Fine. But first, you have to return all the gifts I gave you. And reimburse me for all the meals I paid for, your hospital visits, the moving expenses. He started pulling out receipts and invoices. Every penny. Many of the receipts were for dinners they'd had together or with others, yet all billed to Chloe's accounts or expenses he was now attributing to her. When Liam dramatically slapped down a bill for an astronomical sum, Chloe's already frail frame seemed to shrink even further. The break between them was complete, and Chloe looked utterly devastated. The man I cherished as my first love for all these years was actually this kind of person. You make me sick. Being insulted didn't bother Liam. He almost seemed to take pride in it. I was just trying to help my family's business. My methods might have been a bit ruthless, but when it comes to ruthlessness, How can I possibly compare to you, the master manipulator? You devoured Ethan, squeezed him dry, and were all set to kick him to the curb. I was just following your example. Chloe's chest heaved with rage. For years, Liam had exploited her connections, leveraging her status for his own gain. And now, not only was he showing no gratitude, he was abandoning her again at her lowest point and demanding repayment for every shared expense. Only now, in this moment of stark betrayal, did she finally understand how I must have felt. I'm nothing like you, you parasite. You're the one who came sniffing around like a dog, wagging your tail at my feet, not once but twice. Seeing you grovel like that, the money was worth it. Consider it payment for your dog food. Chloe's words were like daggers. Even someone as shameless as Liam couldn't take it. He raised his hand and slapped her hard across the face. It was only then, as his hand recoiled, that he noticed me standing in the open doorway. He shot me a cold glare, then abruptly stopped his assault. You just wait, he snarled at Chloe. If you don't pay me back every cent, I'll make your life a living hell. With that parting threat, Liam brushed past me and left. As soon as Liam was gone, Chloe crumpled into a corner, wrapped her arms around herself, and started to sob. Ethan, she choked out between tears. I see it now. He's all talk, all empty promises. He never actually does anything. You were always the one who was truly good to me. The company, my mom. I don't care about any of that anymore. Can we start over? Please. She looked up at me, her eyes brimming. I never realized before how much you actually sacrificed for me. I promise from now on, I'll treat you right. I just sat on the edge of the sofa and silently lit a cigarette. Chloe looked a little annoyed by my lack of response, but said nothing. Actually, I said, my voice devoid of emotion, I think you two are quite a pair. Both equally selfish, only ever thinking of yourselves. What he just said sounds exactly like something he'd say. Your actions aren't much different either. I took a drag from the cigarette. All that I did for you, even a blind man would have noticed. But you claim you didn't realize? You're just terrified of dying, Chloe. Stop trying to fool me with these pathetic excuses. Chloe froze, then the tears came afresh. I'm sorry, Ethan. I'm so sorry. But her tears had lost their power over me long ago. I got up and went to my room to sleep. A little while later, Chloe was knocking urgently at my door. My mother's cremation, she said, her voice tight with anxiety. I don't have a penny to my name. I've called everyone I know, but no one will lend me anything. Fallen from grace, she was once again experiencing that crushing feeling of isolation and helplessness. And once again, she was turning to me. I don't have any money either, I said. Even if my funds hadn't been depleted, what did her mother's cremation have to do with me? Suddenly, my eyes fell on a collection of expensive-looking watches on my dresser, a gift from her over the years. All those presents you gave me, I suggested. I've kept them all. Why don't you take them and sell them? I didn't want her anymore, and I certainly didn't want her tainted gifts. Chloe clutched her phone, looking acutely embarrassed. As I started to close the door, she finally mumbled, They can't be sold. They're all fakes. They're worthless. I paused, genuinely surprised. But they all came with receipts. How can they be fake? Chloe looked down, her voice barely a whisper. I did buy the real luxury items, but I gave all the genuine ones to Liam. So, the gifts for me were cheap knockoffs. That explained it. Why, after Liam's return, she'd suddenly started showering me with presents, always showing me the receipts, always emphasizing how expensive they were. I thought it was just guilt. I never imagined she was so determined not to spend real money on me that she'd pass off fakes. Good thing I've always preferred a simpler lifestyle. If I'd worn that junk out in public, I'd have been a laughingstock. Well then, I said coolly, you'd better go asking for the real ones back. I slammed the door in her face, ignoring her cries and desperate pounding. Chloe, left with no other option, called Liam, trying to get the valuable gifts back. Liam just scoffed. Those watches have all depreciated. They're not worth much now. Just focus on paying me back what you owe, and stop trying to pull these stunts. After hanging up, Chloe slumped against my door, crying uncontrollably. I'm so sorry, Ethan. I'll get rid of the baby. I'll only have children with you. Please, just don't leave, okay? I was already fast asleep. After a while, her cries subsided, and she eventually left. The next morning when I woke up, the apartment, which had been chaotic since she moved in, was surprisingly tidy. Chloe, dressed in casual loungewear, greeted me with a plate of breakfast, acting as if nothing was wrong. She proudly announced she'd made it all herself. I looked at the lovingly prepared breakfast on the table. It did look and smell delicious. Perfectly fried eggs deliberately shaped like hearts, and a steaming bowl of hot oatmeal that smelled incredible. You must be hungry, Chloe said, her voice bright. Come and eat. I made all this just for She trailed off, her sentence unfinished. I walked to the fridge, pulled out a couple of slices of bread, and started eating them plain. You learned to cook all this for Liam, didn't you? She'd known how to cook for years. Yet, no matter how exhausted I was, she'd never once stepped into the kitchen for me. But for Liam, it was a different story. She'd wake up an hour early every day to prepare fresh, elaborate breakfasts and deliver them to him, simply because she was afraid he might go hungry. Chloe's face fell at the mention of Liam. Don't bring him up. That's all in the past. We were in love for a while, yes, but I stopped loving him a long time ago. Otherwise, I wouldn't have rejected his marriage proposals repeatedly. She looked at me earnestly. I only love you, Ethan. Her words made my skin crawl. I ignored the breakfast she was offering and walked past her without a word. Love me? Then why the cold shoulder for years? Why, after finding a way to supposedly trap me, did she cross every moral line and get pregnant with Liam's child? It was because she thought I couldn't leave, that I was dependent on her, so she felt free to humiliate me. And now that she'd lost everything, she wanted a fresh start? What next? Would she find another mystic to perform another binding ritual on me? I shook my head and went into my room, leaving Chloe standing alone in the kitchen, an awkward silence hanging in the air. She didn't seem to believe it, that the man who had once loved her so fiercely could suddenly become so indifferent. She continued to prepare breakfast, lunch, and dinner for me every day. It was only then I discovered that Chloe, who had always claimed she couldn't cook, was actually quite skilled. Her dishes looked like they came from a magazine. I hadn't been allowed to eat her cooking before. Now, I had no desire to. Thanks to Chloe's reluctance to publicly acknowledge our relationship in any meaningful way, she was now hounded by creditors, while I remained largely untouched. My departure was imminent. I'd lived in this world for nearly 10 years, my entire existence revolving around Chloe. I hadn't even made any real friends. I simply waited for the clock to run out. Chloe's health deteriorated rapidly. She grew increasingly panicked. Besides her various attempts to please me, she'd reminisce about our past, then try to paint rosy pictures of a future together. Once these hard times are over, she'd say, her voice weak but hopeful, we'll start again. We'll build a beautiful family. I looked at her, my expression cold. You said that before. You said once the company went public, we'd have a wedding of the century, announce our happiness to the world. What I got instead was a dagger of betrayal. Did she really think I'd fall for her empty promises again? Her words were always just words, fleeting and insincere, never fulfilled. She'd said that after the IPO, she'd make the money, and I could relax at home and enjoy life. I hadn't taken it seriously, but after her success, I became the despised, kept man. Her mother, her friends, everyone mocked me, openly or behind my back. She'd offer a few token words of defense in public, but never made any real effort to stop them. She let them humiliate me. Eventually, she joined them, looking down on me too, hating me so much that she wouldn't even keep our child. Chloe lowered her head, silent. The 15-day countdown was over. She seemed to have finally given up all hope, lying listlessly on the sofa. A shimmering portal materialized in the air before me. The way home. I started to walk towards it. Chloe's eyes snapped open. She looked at me, pure terror on her face. Please, don't go. I don't want to die. Her voice was a desperate, ragged plea. I just made a mistake. Why can't you forgive me like you always used to? I ignored her heart-wrenching screams and stepped through. The moment I vanished, her body slumped to the floor, lifeless. Everything had returned to its original point.